I just saw a flurry of emails this morning having to do with the plastic bag ban and paper bags. And why don't you fill us in as to what the problem is?
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, for the record, Doug Farnham, Tax Department. So this is actually something that the department started to take notice of back in February, but to be honest, with COVID and with all of the other priorities we've been balancing, the communication just never happened on identifying this as a potential issue. So the plastic bag ban that goes into effect in 8 days on July 1st essentially says, you're not supposed to use plastic bags anymore. I guess you can use some if you have them in stock, so you can use up your existing supply. But then from this point forward, retailers and grocers must use, if a bag is requested, it has to be a paper bag, and it has to be for a minimum charge of 10 cents. Now, when the committees were discussing that bill, it was discussed as if it were a fee. It was called a fee in committee. However, in the legal structure, it is not a fee, because the 10 cents is retained by the retailer or grocer, and it has no restrictions on use. So they're just required, it's a price threshold, similar to what some states do with cigarettes. So the retailer keeps that 10 cents. And the current state of retailers and grocers is that they would pay the sales tax when they buy the bags. So they pay the 6% on whatever the purchase price was, or they would pay use tax if they bought that with a resale exemption, and then instead used it to package groceries to send home with a customer. So they would owe that money, that 6% on the wholesale price, essentially. So we're not talking about a big difference here between the 10 cents per bag.
Senator McDonald's got a question before we go any further. Senator McDonald.
Just if we were to clarify this situation, would it be best to, do you wish, Commissioner, that you'd done that on the miscellaneous tax bill?
Yes, because
perhaps
our proposal would be a clarification of the retail sale definition.
This senator would be much more supportive of trying to resolve that, were it to be a floor amendment on the miscellaneous tax bill, and that would sort of prevent any other monkey business from possibly going on.
Yes, my intent would be that we would do this as a floor amendment onto miscellaneous tax.
So I want to hear.
We can wait for the other body to do it and send it back to us. And from what I've heard, if the miscellaneous tax bill goes out the way we've sent it out, it's coming back. So it doesn't really matter where we do it.
So I'm now eager to even more eager to hear the proposal of how to solve this problem.
We've done away with the hanky-panky that only Senator McDonald has figured out so far. Okay, Doug, you can continue.
Okay, so the legislative intent on passage was not to have sales tax apply to this 10-cent charge. We definitely confirmed that with at least the committees that discussed it, with DEC, with the Grocers Association. And so the tax department proposes language that would exempt, basically say that sales tax has to be paid on the initial purchase of these carryout bags as defined under the Single-Use Plastic or the Single-Use Act. And so the 6% as it's being paid now would be paid then. So this is revenue neutral. And we would not expect that subsequent, it excludes that subsequent activity, that 10% charge or 10-cent charge, from being considered a resale under sales tax law. Yeah, so we think that that's because it's dealing with local activity. It shouldn't be a streamlined sales tax issue because it's not going to be, a definition for internet sales purposes. It's more of a, if you're buying these for this purpose, you can't use a resale exemption if you're a local vendor.
have a copy of that, Doug? The wording?
Yes, I was just trying to locate that language. I apologize for the last minute nature of all this.
No, this is all, it's the way it goes the last week.
Is it okay if I email that language to Faith?
Yes, yeah, and she can get it out to us.
All right, apologies, Madam Chair. I just sent that, the proposed amendments to Title 32.
Fastest thing be to put it up on the screen, Faith, as soon as you get it. All of us might not have 2 or 3 screens going here.
Madam Chair, in order to be ready for miscellaneous tax, may I just ask Doug or Abby, can you remind me, is there anything in here that's vital to be in law by July 1?
This one is.
So aside from this provision, Senator, July 15th, some of the extension provisions, the automatic recognition of the federal extension, those would be nice to have in by July 15th, but we feel pretty comfortable telling taxpayers we're going to accept federal extensions for this year's personal income tax filings. We also don't have time to change the forms anyway, because all of our forms were published, this spring. So the short answer is no. Other than this, there's nothing that is going to cause serious harm by not being in effect July 1st to the department.
Thank you.
I would just point out there is the technical change for the current use lien subordination that actually will be repealed July 1st. So that it could still be fixed retroactively. It would just have to be added back into the statute. So it's not essential, but this is the cleanest fix, is to have it passed before July 1st.
What section is that, Abby?
I'm just pulling that up now. That was one of the new sections that were added in at the end. It's section 27.
Okay. On this one, paper bags.
Question?
Is this acceptable to do to everybody?
Question?
Question, yes.
So this is the language that's being proposed now by the tax department, right? In 97015. Does that mean that all the grocery stores have to pay a sales tax on their stock of paper bags?
Senator, this would cement the current state essentially, because current law says that they would have had to pay that sales tax or remit use tax if they take it out and use it for something else, because paper bags are subject to sales tax. So it would not, this is designed to be revenue neutral so that it doesn't cost the Ed Fund anything and it doesn't generate any additional revenue.
So right now, a grocery store has a supply of paper bags on hand to give to people. They pay sales tax on those bags and the consumer doesn't pay any tax on those bags, right?
Correct, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
How about the plastic bags that were used, throwaway bags that were used previously? Were those subject to a sales tax?
Yes, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So committee. I guess what we need is someone to just ask to have this drafted up as an amendment and presented on the floor, and we can do the members of the committee can sign on. I would normally do that, but I have another amendment and I don't want to get things confused. So I need someone to volunteer to just get this up and get it up to Senator Bloomer. And I think we can assume unless somebody says they don't want to be on it, can we assume that the whole committee would be on it?
Sure. I don't mind. I'm the presenter of the underlying bill, so
Yep.
does it make sense for me to offer this as the lead?
Yeah,
I'm
Works for
happy
me.
to do that.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Abby, while you're listening, would all 5 of the other senators, minus the chair, be willing to join me?
Yeah, I'd be willing to join on it. I just don't want to have to present it on the floor.
Is that all right with everybody?
It's all right with me, Mark McDonald.
This
Okay.
will kick up a little bit of a hornet's nest on the whole issue, but what are you going to do? Actually, it's a good question. Senator McDonald, as our veteran member, if we pass this amendment, does that make the bill germane for a motion on the plastic bag question?
I would say no.
Because this is tax policy and that
This
is
is miscellaneous tax policy. It's not a,
Right. It's not environmental.
thank you. So Abby,
Great question, though. Thank you.
what do I have to do?
I will put that into amendment format. So for all of the senators present, is that correct, including Senator Ballant?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm just getting up to speed. This is the first I've seen the language, so I want to make sure that all of the references are correct. I will, if you don't mind, I'll work with Doug to make sure I understand what they're trying to pull in, and then I'll get that back out to you. I don't know. I'll get that to you this evening.
So if you could if you could send it to Bloomer and copy me, that would be the way to go, because we want this ideally on the calendar for tomorrow. I'll
Sure.
alert him right now that we have that coming. It's already 4:30. So,
Madam Chair, if this is not changing existing policy at all, I'm not understanding the need. Is this a clarifying language of some sort?
Yeah, I think, Doug, correct me, that it is right now, because we really wanted to encourage people to bring their own bags, reusable bags. So we didn't want grocers just switching over and giving away paper bags, which to generate, compost faster than plastic, but not right away. So we told them that, and we wanted to encourage people to remember their bags. So we told them they had to charge 10 cents a bag.
Right, okay.
So right now they give them to you. They have to charge you. But if they charge you, technically you owe sales tax.
Got
You're
it.
buying a bag.
Okay, I got it now. Thank you.
Could make a lot of money if we made them buy the bags. There's a lot of bags.
I think they are going to make some money.
well,
But-
we get the revenue when the store buys them. The
Right.
question is the resale, correct?
Well, we're getting that now.
these won't be for resale.
Right. Okay. So we are back, if anyone wants to do it, to broadband. And let me find Senate Finance. the next, we have an open agenda, I believe still tomorrow. We're not sure when we're getting off the floor. Faith, I know you were trying to get some people in.
I'm
So
here.
I'm just trying to figure out if we want to keep on going now or if we want,
So I've scheduled June Tierney for 2:30 and the two gentlemen that Senator Brock recommended for 3 o'clock.
okay, so we have testimony tomorrow, and I think our testimony with Commissioner Tierney might be somewhat extended. But we're gonna have to make some decisions.
So you're referring to the bill that we worked on earlier today.
Yes, broadband. Well, it's not a bill. The bill
Right.
is in approach. This will be our recommendation. We don't intend to write 35 pages like we just did in health and welfare. I intend to give them a list. But I think we have suggestions from the House of buckets of money. One that goes to communities, ones that go to individuals, and one that goes to providers, but providers only for cable. We need, I think, we can either use those, we can talk about, and we can talk with Commissioner Tierney about leaving, I believe it is the biggest. Now I've got an agenda, I've got to go back and find my, I need a fourth computer here. A fourth bucket, I'm just trying to see, Maria. Section by section. All right, 43,000. Okay, so that is the, that's the first bucket, which goes to IT and utility ratepayer assistance allocation. So I'm going to have to read the full wording of that, I think, by tomorrow. That's the individual assistance to get hooked up. So I think our lobbyist that's got 4-1 and lives a mile from the line coming out of Montpelier could use her $3,000 to run that line a mile, or talk to a couple of her neighbors, everybody chip in and run that line a mile, or maybe if there's neighbors further up, I've got others. These are not poor neighborhoods. These are suburban Montpelier and Waterbury. They have 35. Okay, and then there's the community resilience section and the line extension, which is only 2 million. Okay, the 800,000 was going to the CUDs for planning. And then 35,000, I'm not sure where that one's going. Oh, I guess that's dividing up the 43 and then the 800. So anyway, take a look at all of that. Decide those are the buckets. We've got to set criteria. So when they write up next door, we need buckets and then criteria within each one, which will tell the department or whomever we end up with administering this, how they are to evaluate, because the bulk of this is competitive grants, how they will evaluate those grants. So if we want them to give preference to CUDs, if we want to give CUDs veto power. Is it total veto power or only veto power if they're not going to get any lines up for 2 years? And somebody else says, well, they can hook up 50 homes in 5 months. How do we, the kind of the weighting criteria that will go into deciding who's getting what grants. So it's the buckets, and we can change those. It's what the and then it's somebody's going to have to distribute the money within the buckets, and under what criteria do we want them to do it? And I don't know how much time we're going to get tomorrow because I don't know what the Senate schedule is going to be.
Sounded like the pro tem was going to try to get us on the floor at noon.
At 2?
No, noon at 12.
Noon, yes, we're on at 12. And but he had talked a couple times today about having late afternoon sessions.
That's right.
Which cuts us off in the back end.
I haven't seen an email to that effect.
I haven't seen one, but I'm bouncing between screens, so it may be there that I haven't seen it.
Madam Chair, we don't usually morning committees sort of during this time have shut down, right? But we're
normally they have. I'm hoping at my noon meeting, the 2 bills we voted out of health and welfare, that ended it. But I doubt it. But we may, at some point have to shut down some other committee so that the money committees can get these bills out, especially if someone wants us to go home by Friday or Saturday.
Well, and I did hear that health and welfare is meeting for July too, right?
Oh, don't even mention it. If it's possible, we will.
That was hot.
Cool and unusual.
That was hot.
We've worked to do this minute distribution of funds for at least 6 weeks. And they came in 2 days ago, had a work session and said, no, you need a couple of big tranches. And 6 weeks worth of work went into 3 big buckets. So that's where we are. But I think it's still a 36-page document. I'm going to try and have this be much shorter than 36, but go home, read, make some notes, and then be ready to talk to the commissioner. We had questions, and Irv Tomei sent me an email saying there is no federal kind of regulation over Lifeline for broadband. So I think we're going to want this, and he had sent out some things, Maria, maybe he said he'd sent out some emails trying to confirm that, but.
I sent out a response to him. It doesn't for broadband, so he may, unless there's something else he's talking about, I don't know.
All right. So but I think we want to ask the commissioner those questions about running the lines and having people run the lines to their houses and then not be able to afford the service. And how does that play in, and what's there to make sure after we invest all of somebody's tax dollars that there's an end product, and if there isn't, and then that goes to some of this money may be able to be used. I don't know. Can it be used to pay people's fees to get them on? Especially coming out of the crisis. So Senator McDonald.
Isn't there $900,000 in money that's being held by
Yes, I got
department that
three
we've appropriated?
copies. I got 3 copies of the Capitol bill and finally a letter from Catherine Benham. There is not quite, but 899, pretty rounded to 900,000 in money from the Capitol bill that was put in about Vanu Coverage Co.
And it's sitting there
and their-
available for connection, so I would.
It would
hope
be, it would have, that's a good question, Maria. Is that you or? It's capital money, so.
I've got a whole
would-
pile of correspondence about this over the last several days
okay.
involving JFO and Senator Benning from institutions, as well as appropriations, that I think answers many of those questions. And I'll try to cobble those together and send them out to the rest of the committee today. I'm still gathering information because it's still partially elusive.
Thank you.
Well-
Sounds like it's in good hands, Madam Chair.
It's somewhere. I
There,
don't
yeah,
know.
it would have to be a capital investment because it's
Yeah.
bonded money.
Right.
But I'm assuming we're hoping that the poles and wires last 20 years. I know we can't buy computers with it generally because they don't.
If I think, Madam Chair, that Senator Brock is looking at with the hopes that if we build out connections to past people's houses and we need to hook them up to qualify for federal money, that maybe that 900,000 would do the trick to assure that people were getting connected and
Right.
validate the rest of the federal expenditures.
Well, it's getting them connected and then it's affording the fee to the provider. My provider's somewhere around $100 a month. So I want to know about Lifeline. If we get them connected, could we do Lifeline? Or perhaps we could reserve that 900,000 for the CUDs.
I'm eager to hear what
Yeah.
Senator Brock has, the
So,
work that he's been doing and how that might tie in here
right,
when
Well,
he's ready.
the original question, where I started asking the question some weeks ago, was looking at whether or not any of that $900 could be, 900,000 could be repurposed to do some portion of the 10-year telecom plan. So that's where I started. And it's still, somewhere in the rabbit hole as the material that I'm sending out to you, I think we'll see. And I've got a further question back to the Department of Public Service that may be able to shed some more light on it.
and I've sent out, there were 2 additional memos from our consultant on things to consider. One was, why are we doing a 10-year plan when things change every 10 days? Maybe we want to reel that back in, but also it's some good questions to think about as we set up this, like how does it fit in with our long-term goals? And though one is having the CUDs really be in the forefront of providing service, and the other is the level of service we want, because the chances of getting 100 out there to a lot of people by December is not really great. Maybe EC Fiber's up, they're running. I'm sure they can find some, roads they could run up. I have a feeling CV, just because I know they've been working with EC Fiber and getting connected up in Roxbury, which is a telecom and cell phone hole. They may be ready to do that limited service area. I don't know, I guess the Northeast project is up and running and may be in line, but most of the other ones are still in very formative stages. They aren't running stuff. Senator Pearson.
Madam Chair, when we adjourn, I'm hoping that Sarah Brock and I can get our heads together as we try to advance this mumble or this sort of slightly chaotic assembling here. So I wonder, to that end, if senators sort of had one or two principles that were important to advance. I mean, we've had a wide-ranging conversation here. I've done my best to keep track of different points, but what does success look like to each of you so that we can have that up front and do our best to incorporate it into our thinking?
Yeah, and Madam Chair, to your question about why do a 10-year telecommunications plan, the answer is because it takes us 5 years to produce one.
It's probably true. Oh, well.
So is Senator Pearson looking for us to all go around right now?
Yeah. And think about, I think I would like to target school districts that have have a higher percentage of kids that are unconnected. And I've invited Commissioner Tierney, since we've been told that the school superintendents or principals, that they're all collecting this information, and that the Department of Ed has been sending it over to the Public Service Department. So I would like to know what they've got, but if we could find a couple of school districts that are severely hampered, and my hunch is that'll probably be somewhere up in the north, maybe down in the mountains. It'll be in the central rib, that we target those areas so we can really help out a couple, and they're probably poor or struggling school districts, but I'd like to do that.
In that vein, Madam Chair, I'm not speaking and trying to get EC fiber built out in EC fiber territory. There must be plenty of places in the state that have yet to that we should use as much of the money as we can to build fiber out, to then connect the very types of districts or areas that the chair has just mentioned. And those build outs should be compatible with the future build outs for the loops that fiber would eventually have. They don't have to be the whole loop. It just needs to be a section of the logical loops for building fiber out, and that we connect them to the very districts that the chair has just mentioned, and try and do it proportionally around the state. Because doing
a preference for fiber, if we can't have fiber, then what? Not precluding fiber in the future?
Every time we extend far out with stuff that isn't fiber, we reduce the eventual acquisition of 100. Anytime we can move fiber out and then have it part of what would be the logical loops that fiber would have in the future, and we connect them now to with copper or with local temporary wireless build outs for regions, that would be the best use of the federal money, because the fiber will be in the long-term interests, and the temporary copper or whatever to be hooked up to those areas would qualify us to
Could we
use the
say
federal money
copper
for
is
that.
least preferred?
Excuse me?
Is copper the least preferred?
Copper is trinkets and beads, Madam Chair.
Copper DSL.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
All right, so for me, it is also, I mean, it's turbocharging the CUDs is what I want to do at this point. I mean, let them work to fulfill their mission, which really is universal coverage of future-proof technology. And I think that's going to be the best use. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. And of course, also which serves the most underserved and low-income Vermonters.
Advantage the CUDs as allowable by federal law.
I'm sorry, did you just?
Yeah, this has to be
right. I mean,
as allowable under federal law, which,
absolutely.
yeah, on this one.
But let's really turbocharge these folks so that we can really, you know, and really move toward technology, you know, future technology proof, future. Really good. So, whatever I was trying to say there. Future-proof technology is, I think, the order I want those 3 words. For the record.
Okay.
Nothing to add. The previous speakers have spoken my mind.
Okay. Grandkids just arrived with Dunkin' Donuts, so I'm leaving.
Nice.
They've gone to their room wearing their masks. We're wrapping up. Okay.
Are you ready?
Senator
to
Sirotkin.
So I guess the thought that I had goes back to conversations we had probably a week ago or more. And that was the idea of using the money to go out as far as possible to a household that would qualify for CARES funding because of a health condition, education, or remote work, and then have the benefit of that line all the way out there for future development by Vermonters that presently don't have fiber or cable. So I don't know how you do that, but that's sort of, I think it's sort of a multiplier effect. And even though it would be state money, perhaps, or whatever, consumer money down the road next year, at least a lot of the work will have been done on the federal dime of the CARES funding. I don't know how you write that or how you get that concept in there. The second thing, which what I would like to see, and which I think I like to see in all of these things, is these federal dollars are going to help businesses that are in these industries to make progress with new customers or retaining existing customers. And I think that a program, if it could be set up that prioritizes those businesses to put some resources in themselves, I think that would be helpful. So in our in the Economic Development Committee, even tomorrow, I know we're going to be looking at rent assistance, but I'm going to be arguing that we give rental assistance to landlords that otherwise might not get paid, that on the flip side, they agree not to evict somebody for several months. Obviously, they could evict somebody for non-payment, but there shouldn't be any no-cause eviction for those people who are taking the rental assistance money. So I think it would be consistent here. So that's all I have to add to thoughts for Chris. I'm not hearing anything. Are we on still?
Yes.
We are on live still. I think everybody is about drained, so I'm going to adjourn. We can go off live and go home and read broadband studies.
Ending live stream now.